I know that for years, my promiscuity was exploitative. As a famous rich dude, sleeping around, having sex in bathrooms, sleeping with multiple people at once, using the fact that I had massive access to having sex with strangers and was doing it, that's pretty crazy and excessive. And there's no question that that is sinful, broken behavior that hurts people. And I beg for forgiveness, and I'm given forgiveness, and I beg for salvation. But what happened in this weird liminal space is that behaviour got metastasised and reformed retrospectively into criminal conduct by competing media companies working with groups like Logically and Crisp, working with legacy media companies, collaborating in an unprecedented way in order to go back to, for years and years, talk to people like, have you got a story about Russell Brand? What about that? Well, other people have bravely come forward. What if we shift that? What if we shift this a little bit? What if we tweak that? Now it goes from, instead of being a heel and a fool and greedy, and and in some aspects of the culture, a playboy, a womanizer, a gadabout, a player. It was reformed into, no, this guy's not like all those other famous womanizers that we know are out there, that sometimes have to put out injunctions, that sometimes have to pay lawyers a lot of money to keep stories quiet. No, you're in this different category here, all of a sudden, of the most appalling criminals known. All the while in my country now, there's this explosion that there are actual grooming gangs that are raping and abusing little girls and young women at an almost institutional and inconceivable level. And it appears that the media and government have repressed and ignored those stories for reasons that I find difficult to understand, but the sort of a loose way of describing it is multiculturalism. Now, in that, Michael Schellenberger, how is it that I as an individual say, hey, listen, it was wrong that I was a womanizer like that. I don't think I'm in a discrete category away from lots of other womanizers, so I hope you're going to get to their investigation sometime down the line. I've got a list of names of other people you might want to look at for womanizing. Not that I'm a telltale, but more importantly, what are we going to do about the morality? If indeed it is sinful and wrong to sleep around like that, what are we going to do about firstly, the massive criminal, exploitative, evil grooming gangs? Let's get to that. The extraordinary number of people in politics that seem to have weird connections to paedophilia or various circuits, groups and rings, whether that's around Epstein or people in Hollywood and Diddy, and that's not just people in Hollywood. What do we do about that? How do I personally handle it? And what does it tell us about our shifting culture, these tectonic plates that have moved around, and the people that get caught in the cogs when a culture suddenly decides, of course, I'm going to mention that it happened not when I was, all over the media every day in Hollywood on talk shows, introducing movies, blah, 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 and actually sleeping with loads of women. It happened when I started to talk about Moderna, Pfizer, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, right, and exploitation and manipulation at the highest level.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just a coincidence that it happened then. I mean, I think the grooming gangs is such a great example and such a great contrast, because obviously, the system was, and the Telegraph was so good in its coverage. It just said this was, multiculturalism was used as a way to sweep this under the rug. And obviously you transgressed the corporate agenda of the blob, and that's why they went after you. If you were just out there doing yoga lessons, there's no way they would have gone after you in that way. I don't think anybody could deny that at this point. But I mean, it's crazy, because it seems like that was kind of the power of the media to do that has been significantly reduced now by the takeover of X and the rise of Tucker. I mean, there was sort of, these attacks, are sort of the last gasp of a dying media. I mean, Washington Post, like nobody reads it anymore. It's going under. The British newspapers are doing better, but no, I think your point is very well taken, Russell, and I hope you become a crusader against the grooming gangs, because it's definitely a cause. It clearly needed some leadership that it didn't have. The big lie is that nationalism is the same as fascism or the same as totalitarianism. What Hannah Arendt teaches us is that nationalism is a barrier to totalitarianism. Totalitarianism wants to destroy all relationships that people have except for the one between the people and the state, between the people and the party and the state, which are one and the same. And so what nationalism gets you, like in healthy friendships, in healthy relationships, romantic, platonic, you want your friend to be their own person, to be a strong person, to have their own sense of identity, to have an interiority that is strong enough to match yours. You don't want them becoming like you. You don't want them trying to make you like them. You want them to have that. So when I think about Britain, I have a very similar reaction that Elon has with Britain, which is that I care about Britain. I also care about Brazil. It's not even I mean, I wouldn't say I care about all countries equally, but certainly Britain, we're all in the tradition of the British Enlightenment and this incredible British liberal democratic tradition. So when I look at the grooming gangs, there's two things going on there. One is this just unspeakable cruelty and predation on vulnerable people, but it also reminds me of this really important insight by the scholars of civilization who say when civilization breaks down, it's when the elite, what they call the creative class of the bourgeoisie, the creative class of people that are really running the country. It's when they stop identifying with their own working class and their own people, and they start to identify with the elites in other countries, and then make an alliance as well with the poor and working class of other countries, who then get imported to undermine the national fabric. So, look, I'm a big supporter of immigration. America's a country built on it. That's part of what makes us special, is we're really good at integrating that. But you have to maintain your national culture. You have to maintain your national traditions. And I think that this is where, we've been talking, I think, a little bit about what is the relationship between a kind of political agenda, coalition, etc., and what is your spiritual commitment. I do think that there is a kind, I would call it spiritual, if you don't want to use that word, you could say ideological, you could say consciousness, that you need a strong national consciousness in order to be a strong and healthy country. Why? Precisely so you can protect your most vulnerable girls and boys from predators. I mean, part of the issue in Britain, and you probably understand this much better than I do, I just observe it from traveling there increasingly, is that there's just, the United States is much more egalitarian. We're much more like, like if you go to Britain and you're like a university professor, they treat you so much better than they do. They kind of think, they treat it like the United States is like, I don't care. I'm an electrician. You're a university professor. You know better than me. And that's what's so great about the United States. But there is that, the British, I think some of that snobbery and that elitism led them to ignore the predation of often these vulnerable girls were poor and working class. A lot of them are, they didn't have a parent in the home. I mean, it's very similar to the kids that are preyed upon for sex trafficking or by the priests. And so why do you need nationalism? It's so that you protect all of your citizens. And it's not to say that you sort of overlook the abuses of your citizens. It's really more like you have a common ethic and code, but it is so striking that multiculturalism, I mean, this was very clear in the Telegraph's coverage of the Grooming gangs. Multiculturalism was the ideological cover for all of this horrible abuse. And so I kind of go, I hope that Britain revives its own national commitment, because I do think that's necessary for Britain to be a strong independent ally of the United States, and for it to protect its own citizens, and for us to continue this process of maintaining this incredible liberal democratic civilization that allows us to be different individuals and not be subject to really, awful, confining totalitarian moralities.
A matter of days from the inauguration, and surely Judgment Day from all those scammers and blackguards that benefited during the pandemic. Yes, the COVID reckoning is upon us, and it's time for you to get the ultimate spike detox. Whether you're suffering from severe side effects or experiencing long COVID, how bloody long, check out this natural solution formulated by the great Dr. Peter McCulloch in collaboration with The Wellness Company. Introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, conveniently consolidated into one little capsule with 4 times more nattokinase. You can never have enough nattokinase, can you? 500 milligrams of bromelain and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. What is nattokinase, by the way? Nattokinase is an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects. It may work to break down spike proteins. That's the hope, kids. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research. People aren't just guessing, there's research. Offering effective support for your cells, natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCulloch, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all. You plucky go-getter. Head to twc.health/brand and use the code brand to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/brand and use the code brand to get 10% off and free shipping. Back to the content. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.